I must oblige to the audience. You're an important part. You're an important part of the set, Rue. Just. Could you just be here? I'm gonna keep turning. Isn't he precious? Precious baby. Hey y'all, it's Becky here from the Beckysphere, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Becky, and every Tuesday and Thursday we talk about the climate here. The problems, yes, but the solutions, yes. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, go ahead and click that subscribe button below, hit the like, comment, share, all that good stuff. And today we are going to continue our renewable energy journey and talk about the most prominent renewable energy source in the world, hydropower. So there are three main types of hydropower. There's dams, which are also called storage or impoundment hydropower systems. There's run-of-rivers, which is also called diversion, and then there are pumped storage. So the dam ones are usually the ones that we think of for hydropower because they're the most obvious and large structures. And these ones are convenient because they are able to adjust how much energy is being produced during that period of time, just like pumped storage as well. With pumped storage is kind of like using water as a battery storage system. Basically what happens is water at the bottom gets pumped up to the top using excess energy produced during a cheap energy period of time, and then it is released back down to flow over the turbines to produce energy when there is more of a demand. So the dam form and the pumped storage form, they are able to create power and not necessarily need energy storage systems because they're kind of their own energy storage systems. Whereas the run-of-river ones actually do need storage because it relies on the regular flow of the natural river. And that can be a lot more of a flow during like the rainy season and not very much during the drier seasons. So within these forms of hydropower, there are three main sizes that differentiate the different types of hydropower as well. The first one is large hydropower, which is anything larger than 30 megawatts of power. Then there's the small hydropower, which is anything from 30 megawatts to 100 kilowatts. And then there are the micro hydropower ones, which are anything below 100 kilowatts. The largest hydropower system in the world is in China, and it is called the Three Gorges Dam. And this one is huge, but China still only uses hydropower for about 17% of its overall energy generation because, well, China's huge. On contrast, even though China has the largest hydropower system in the world, Canada is actually the country that uses hydropower for the largest percentage of its energy generation. Hydropower accounts for 61% of Canada's energy generation, at least as of 2019. In the US, hydropower only accounts for about 6.7% of its overall energy generation, but this number is also expected to grow. Now, let's go through some pros and cons of hydropower in general. First, the pros. Hydropower is one of the oldest forms of energy generation to be used today, and it is relatively cost effective when you get past the initial building costs of a dam or turbines. Obviously, the initial cost depends on what form of hydropower you use. Another benefit, which I had kind of mentioned before, is that it is a relatively reliable and consistent form of energy creation, at least the storage mechanism ones, because they are able to adjust how much power they produce based on demand, kind of similar to how fossil fuel companies operate. In addition to being able to store their own power for a rainy day, they are also able to do so for other renewable energy sources that need it, such as onshore wind and solar. So combining onshore wind and solar with a hydropower station might actually kind of alleviate the need for power storage technology. But obviously there's not necessarily pump storage hydropower systems where we would need for it to cover all the other forms of renewable energy. Another benefit is that it has a relatively long lifespan. There's not as much upkeep that is needed for hydropower systems as there are for other forms of energy generation. And some other benefits for dam systems in particular is that they generally supply water to local areas, and they can also reduce flood possibilities. Unless they break, in which case they cause major floods. Which brings me now to the costs. First of all, the initial production of these dams require a lot of concrete creation, and concrete is a huge source of greenhouse gas emissions. In addition to that, dams also wreak environmental havoc. They can cause sediment buildup, which also hurts the amount of water that they're able to store, because sediment builds up around where the dam is and can reduce the amount of water it can hold without overflowing. And it also hurts fish migration, which are very needed for being able to recreate the fish population. While there are fish ladders in some dams that have been able to alleviate that problem for some fish species, not all fish are able to jump, and the fish ladder won't necessarily work for every species of fish. In addition to that, when initially creating the dam, part of the land or part of the ecosystem needs to basically be turned into a lake. And when that happens, a bunch of plant matter that grew in that area that is then flooded releases methane as it dies. Now we are seeing that basically contributes to 1.3% of our overall greenhouse gas emissions, and it represents 23% of man-made methane emissions. So that's another big problem. So even though it is technically a form of renewable energy, aka it doesn't produce carbon dioxide or methane when it is in use, the byproducts still produce greenhouse gas emissions. And as I said before, dams have been known to fail, and that can result in a large mortality for those living downstream. Nowadays, about 2/3 of rivers around the world have already been dammed. So there is a decreased amount of opportunity for new locations to be built. And dams are more expensive to build than onshore wind and solar projects, but they are less expensive to build than offshore wind and fossil fuel projects. So just kind of depends. Now there is a bunch of upcoming technology to help reduce some of the environmental damage that is caused by either currently existing dams or any new projects that would like to be built. In fact, there are also some projects that are coming online that don't necessarily require any damming at all. Instead, they insert a turbine into the flowing water system, and the turbine just turns like on the floor. And some turbines have even been built to basically reduce any chance of fish mortality. So that's really cool too. There are better fish ladder systems that have been developed, and also they are finding that some dams just really don't need to be there anymore. And when they remove those dams, the wildlife does come back. Now, speaking of which, in October of 2020, a bunch of environmental groups, as well as hydroelectric organizations in the US, made an unusual alliance where they basically recognized that hydropower is a form of renewable energy and therefore important when we're talking about the green energy transition. However, it's also important to keep in mind that we need healthy rivers in order for our local ecosystems to survive. Rivers are a very important, basically, blood system of the planet. And so they made an agreement that basically more hydropower systems and hydro energy would continue to be created, but current existing systems will either need to be refurbished or bettered to lessen their environmental impact or increase their overall efficiency, or to decommission ones that are no longer needed. In addition to that, new projects need to go through stringent environmental standards. Now, my personal opinion from researching this is that hydropower kind of reminds me of nuclear, in that there are a lot of benefits when built and it is a form of clean energy, but maybe it's better to just focus on the current existing systems than necessarily build new ones, because they're really expensive to build and there are cheaper methods out there to produce energy. I don't know. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comments below, and if I missed anything, also let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you all on Thursday when we will discuss the second section of All We Can Save, which is the advocate section. So go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. And remember to talk about the climate every single day and to support your local news organizations. Next week, I'm going to talk about how local news is important for environmental movements. All right, well, I will see you all later. Bye.